plane. I'm using it happily. I also take commercial flights. I want to save money. I must lead by example. I can't be pronouncing things, but I'm doing different things. I'm talking of prudence, I'm showing luxury and consumption. Which citizen will follow me? But obviously, there are a lot of angry citizens who were used to cash handouts. They're very angry. What you said is true. We have a lot of angry people who were used to bad habits. And I'm hoping that the citizens of Zambia will understand that moving from minus 2.8% GDP amid its difficulties and to post 4%, and this year we will definitely deliver 6.6% GDP growth. We are working to deliver 7%. But our official figure is 6.6%. The rest of the things get taken care of. Looking after the old, the sick, looking after the children through free education, taking care of the retired. My dear colleagues, when we took office, there was a backlog of paying government retirees going back 20 years. In the first 1.5 years, Minister, you can correct me, Minister of Finance, how long did it take us to clear the backlog? In 3 months. Call it 1 year, if you want. In 3 months, because of these prudence measures, which most eyes, an ordinary citizen doesn't see until they see a building, a new classroom. In 6 months, we were able to clear a 20-year backlog on retirement benefits. Imagine someone works for their money for 30 years, they retire, they are not paid their money. Many died. And in 3 months, we said, we'll clear, and we cleared. I am sending a message here that as part of resilience building, as part of graduating from LDCs into where every citizen who vote for us wants us to be, we have to focus on economic growth, and more growth. For jobs, for youthful population, 1, 2, for business opportunities, 3, for treasury income, to do what I've just said. I think we as LDCs must resolve that the challenge, the change in the global geopolitics is a rare opportunity that we have been given to do what we should have done 20 years ago. At that point, I believe I've delivered my message in the way I wanted. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for delivering the keynote speech in line with enhancing resilience, innovative solutions for strengthening least developed countries, resilience against systematic shocks. Mr. President has shared the Zambian story as well as provided guidance on just how the LDCs can be able to look at a future in which we will be able to achieve resilience against systematic shocks. Let's give him another round of applause. As we go towards the end of our program, I'd like to just guide on how we will proceed. We will have a closing prayer by the officiating clergy that will then be followed by singing of the national anthem. The last item on our program will be a photo session in which our high table will be invited just right in front of the flags that we'll be able to take some pictures, after which our delegation with the guest of honor will be laid out of this auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for choosing Zambia as the destination for this very important forum. And in the words of the president, when he began his speech, he started by welcoming all of you to our beautiful country, Zambia. In the spirit of gratitude, he said, please ensure that you utilize the opportunity to take advantage of the hospitality that we offer as warm, calm, and hospitable, peaceful people of Zambia. So I do hope that I will see you in Livingston. Please do make sure that within an hour of concluding the deliberations here, you head to Livingston. You will not regret it. And please do make sure you take as many pictures as possible, post them, and let everybody know that Zambia is the ultimate tourism destination. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Mr. President, for taking time to officiate this very important occasion. With that said, it is my honor and privilege to now request once again the officiating clergy to close for us in a word of prayer. In this regard, we will all be upstanding. After the prayer, we will have the national anthem. Reverend Colonel Matafwali will provide the prayer.
Shall we pray? Our God and our Father, we are so thankful for what has been accomplished here today. We thank you, mighty God, even for the declarations made. Now, Lord, we seek your blessings, even as we navigate various challenges. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord keep his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace, even as we disperse. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Shall we sing the national anthem? Stand and sing of Zambia, proud and free, land of wake and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for their right. We've won freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God's good hand. Let us all her people join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace needs Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God. Praise be, praise be. Bless our great nation, Zambia, Zambia. Free men we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia. Praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Thank you very much. Our president will now be laid right in front of the flags where we will take pictures. Thank you. And as Mr. President proceeds, ladies and gentlemen, you may take your seats. Thank you very much. Now the President will take leave. And as we have concluded the opening ceremony, we wish you fruitful deliberations throughout the conference. Ladies and gentlemen, let us stand by. We will receive guidance on the next item of activities.
In short, FFD4, followed by interventions from our panel of ministers about specific challenges facing the LDCs and how they have succeeded in addressing them to build resilience in different ways. So without further ado, I will turn to our keynote presentation by His Excellency Mr. Lok Bahado, Permanent Representative of Nepal to the United Nations Global Chair of the LDCs Group in New York, Vice President of ECOSOC, and a co-facilitator of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. The outcome of the upcoming FFD4 conference in Seville in June 2025 can be a game changer, as it will address a range of critical issues linked to building resilience, including debt, the reform of the international financial architecture, ODA, and more. It is now my pleasure to invite Ambassador Bahadu to speak on the upcoming FFD4 and the opportunities for LDCs. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Honorable Minister Dr. Sitombeko Musukotane, Honorable Ministers, USCs, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We are here at a very pivotal moment. The world is undergoing significant shifts across politics, economics, finance, technology, and beyond. The impact of these transformations is profound, significant, and far-reaching for every country, more specifically the LDCs. It's highlighted in the morning sessions, multiple intertwined global crises that include the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, geopolitical competitions, cost of living crisis, have exacerbated the extent vulnerabilities of LDCs. Our countries have faced severe economic setbacks in recent years. Many LDCs are poorer than they were in 2019. LDCs face a huge SDG financing gap. ODA is still far short of commitment level. Exports and government revenue continue to fall. FDI flow to LDC is not encouraging at all. External debt continues to rise in LDCs. It has indeed tripled since 2010, with half of the LDCs facing debt distress or high risk of it. As LDCs' vulnerabilities continue to grow, their fiscal space to tackle these challenges is rapidly shrinking. Along with this resource gap, LDCs are also facing many policy, institutional, technology, and capacity constraints. They also face a huge gap in digital connectivity, digital public infrastructure, and global digital trade. They are bearing the disproportionate burden of climate change impacts. Thus, all these factors have contributed to slow LDC's progress towards the SDGs and accelerating the 2030 agenda, and carbon transitions are becoming even more challenging for us all. LDCs are in need of external support more than ever, but the current international development cooperation's context is taking the reverse course. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, against this backdrop, the FFD4 offers a historic opportunity to reinforce measures for addressing the crises and challenges in developing countries, particularly LDCs. Eradicating poverty and hunger, bridging the SDG financing gap, and addressing inequality have remained the most important focus of FFD4. The FFD4 outcomes document rightly prioritizes FDI in diversified sectors, calling for strategic alignment with national industrialization policies and plans, increasing the capacity of MSMEs, providing sufficient support to them as well as developing digital financial inclusion are among other priorities of the LDCs. Building technological capacity and technical advancement in LDCs through digital literacy and technical transfer is also emphasized. The document has outlined to improve the MDB's constitutional windows and financing facilities through capital adequacy reforms for capital increases and financial assistance to LDCs. The draft proposes the sufficient measures to address the barriers LDCs face in addressing international capital markets. Simplified and unrestricted access to climate funds and finance, which is critical, is also highlighted and underlined in the FFD4 outcome document. It also calls for fulfilling the commitment to climate finance agreed in UNFCCC. It also places special emphasis on boosting trade in LDCs as well as enhancing productivity and value addition in critical minerals and commodities. It highlights the need for reducing dependency on commodities and promoting sectors like agroforestry, e-commerce, and circular economies. The FFD4 outcomes also highlights the climate resilient debt clauses, offer a template for managing debt during the crisis, providing fiscal space for emergency response. The LDC's debt stock has significantly increased in recent years, posing substantial challenges with many facing unsustainable debt burdens. FFD4 proposes reforms to enhance responsible borrowing and lending practices, ensuring sufficient debt restructuring processes. State contingent debt clauses can help mitigate the impact of the crisis on debt servicing while expanding DSSI to include other developing countries, particularly the LDCs. The resilience is not mere, Excellencies, resilience is not mere a survival. It is the capacity to thrive amid turbulence. FFD4 outcome provides some critical provisions and tools that need to be prioritized to help the least developed countries to build resilience and thrive. The draft emphasizes the importance of mobilizing significant resources through innovative financing mechanisms and building capacity and strengthening capacity to mobilize domestic resource effectively. An outcome document has also given stress on the importance of fulfilling ODA commitments to LDCs. Excellencies, international cooperation is essential for enhancing resilience in LDCs. FFD4 reaffirms the importance of multilateral cooperations and international solidarity. LDC must work together with the development partners to ensure that international support aligns the national strategies and priorities. Strengthening the voice of LDCs in international financial institutions is crucial for effective global governance, as highlighted by His Excellency the President during the morning session. In conclusion, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, enhancing resilience in LDCs requires a multifaceted approach that leverages strategic opportunities presented by FFD4. We must work collectively to ensure that our priorities are reflected in the outcome document, focusing on economic diversifications, climate resilience, debt sustainability, and international cooperation. It is highly important for LDCs to leverage this opportunity, especially when LDCs are strongly represented in the FFD4 process. I urge all stakeholders to support LDCs in their pursuit of resilience, acknowledging that our collective prosperity depends on global cooperation and commitment. Together, we can build a stronger, more resilient future, and FFD4 presents a vital opportunity to achieve this goal. I thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank His Excellency Ambassador Lok Badu for his insightful presentation. Let us move now to our distinguished panel of ministers. And we'll start with the Honorable Dr. Owen Jomanika, Member of Parliament, Minister of Natural Resources and Climate Change of Malawi. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Malawi for its leadership in the climate change negotiations, as Malawi has been serving as chair of the LDC group under the UNFCCC since January 2024. There is perhaps no sector that is more important to our economies than agriculture, as it impacts directly on food security, livelihoods, and employment. Minister, to kick off our discussion, could you please share with us how Malawi has tackled climate change impacts on crop yields and what related actions are planned or underway on adaptation? Minister, you have the floor.
to include and address climate risks. Secondly, we have also managed to implement and encourage our people to use the correct land use framework. The use of land to its optimum productivity without causing erosion and loss of fertility. And what is happening in this is that at least among others, we have developed a 10-year soil health and fertilizer action plan with the aim of trying to improve soil productivity and enhance conservation. Because one of the issues that is affecting us is that we are losing our soil at a very fast rate. And this soil is happening because we also, the landscape management, the forest cover, we are losing it. People are burning charcoals, forest is going whatsoever, so land is affected. We have been investing in irrigation development, and recently we understand that we have more than 420,000 hectares of irrigable land. But all along we have been using just a quarter of it, or less than that. So even in the recent budget, we have managed to allocate funds to make sure that we are able to invest in irrigation. Malawi has been introducing climate resilient crop varieties, such as drought-tolerant maize, rice, and cassava varieties. So we are trying also to adopt and be innovative about it to go scientific way. We understand the significance of genetics. That's why of late we are so much using the universities we have and the research stations that we have. We have research stations almost in every agricultural development divisions in Malawi. So we are trying so much to use this so that we are able to get the correct varieties per hectare of production. So we have also gone forward to deal with the Seed Act to make sure that we legislate the seed and how seed should be managed. Recently, we have undergone insurance, a microinsurance coverage. And this, we have almost 71,351 families and households are benefiting from this coverage, trying to deal with issues of drought and climate change. The government is strengthening the meteorological department so that at least we should be able to have critical climatic information services for agriculture, and mostly through the early warning systems. That's about proactivity. Recently, we have had challenges with our rains. So the meteorological department will tell you that we will not have rains as early as October. We might get it somewhere around November. You find a certain section of our people doing that and following that. A certain section missing it to a point that we have some farmers who have planted twice or 3 times because they could not follow that. And those are some of the planned actions underway towards adaptation. Because the second element of the question is saying, what are we doing as a country? Yeah, we are trying to conscientize our people to appreciate the meteorological services we have. While we are boosting the meteorological department to have at least modern applications, we are also trying to make sure that our people should be able to use those. We have developed an app and also even season climate outlook reports. We have deployed a weather radar system to enhance forecasting, disaster preparedness, and even aviation safeties. What are we doing to deal with adaptation? One, we are prioritizing agriculture as one of our key areas, even in the National Adaptation Plan. And we are also increasing access to financing for our farmers, mainly those that are doing mega farms. We are enhancing collaboration with development partners. That's an issue of partnership to ensure that our development partners are also doing their programming along this element of adaptation. We are encouraging private sector investment in climate information services so that we should have proper information for agricultural planning. While we are doing all this, we understand that a bigger chunk of our people in agriculture who are playing a role in agriculture are smallholder farmers. We are also making efforts to improve and support smallholder farmers who are the backbone of our agriculture sector to adapt to climate change. That's what we can share, moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for those interesting examples from Malawi. Most interesting indeed. I would now like to turn to the Honorable Dr. Abdul Fad Fofana of Togo. Minister, the LDCs typically have a greater proportion of young people. Their share of the population in the 15 to 29 age bracket is about 7%, points higher than in other countries. Our youth represent an important potential, but we must find ways of harnessing this demographic dividends. The question now is as follows, Minister. What initiatives has Togo launched to leverage the youth dividend by developing skills and entrepreneurship for a more resilient and structurally diverse economy? Minister Fofana, that is your question. Please carry on.
Finance and Economy of Zambia. His Excellency, I'm very glad to be part of this session with you all. And I would like to thank a lot the UN OHRLS, Rabab Fatimat, for the invitation, and also the government of Thailand to support this initiative. Thank a lot for the Zambia government for hosting us in the country. And for us, I think this space is very important, first to learn from other countries and also to share what we are doing best in our country. So I'm here to share what is ongoing and some best practice in Togo. And I will start to make, I think, life difficult for someone because I will shift in French, right? So, comme je le disais, c'est pour moi un plaisir de partager l'expérience du Togo en matière d'employabilité des jeunes, d'entrepreneuriat et d'appui à la transformation structurelle de nos économies. Et avant tout propos, je tenais quand même à rappeler que la trajectoire des pays les moins avancés ces dernières années a connu des avancées réelles. Pour votre information, il faut noter que les PMA, durant les 50 dernières années, ont vu leur PIB réel qui a été multiplié par environ 5. Mais il faut noter que ces évolutions au niveau donc des pays les moins avancés ne doivent pas cacher les vulnérabilités que les ministres et puis les participants ont soulevées ici. Et parmi donc ces vulnérabilités, l'un des éléments importants qu'il faut relever, c'est que depuis 50 ans, on remarque que 10 pays seulement sont sortis de la liste des PMA. Alors que sur la même période, on note plus de 25 pays qui se sont rajoutés à cette liste. Donc la question qu'on se pose est, voilà, qu'est-ce qu'il faut réellement faire pour sortir donc de cette liste des PMA? On est PMA pas pour y demeurer, mais on est PMA également pour aspirer donc à une transformation structurelle. Donc, à notre niveau au Togo, nous parlons de développement des PMA, on ne peut pas parler de développement en ignorant la jeunesse. La jeunesse doit être au centre donc, des décisions donc, de politique économique. Et c'est ce que je vais essayer donc, de partager rapidement avec vous au cours donc, de ce panel. Le Togo, à l'instar de la majorité des pays, des PMA ou des pays africains, est confronté, je pense, à une situation démographique marquée par une croissance soutenue donc, de la population et bien sûr d'une population assez jeune. L'exemple du Togo, quand on prend le Togo, la population ayant un âge moins de 25 ans représente plus de 60% de la population. Et dans ce pays, quand on voit également en 2024-2025, le taux annuel donc, de croissance donc, de la population était à plus de 2 points de pourcentage. Et au même niveau, quand on regarde un peu le taux de fécondité, on voit que ces dernières années, le taux de fécondité est à la baisse donc, dans la majorité donc, de nos pays. Au Togo, je pense depuis les années 80 jusqu'à nos années actuelles, on est passé à un taux de fécondité qui était à plus de 7 enfants par femme, à un taux donc, de fécondité d'environ 4 enfants par femme. Donc tous ces éléments-là nous montrent que voilà, nous sommes un peu au rendez-vous de la transition démographique. Et qu'est-ce qu'il faut réellement faire pour tirer parti donc, de ces dividendes démographiques et non en pâtir. Donc au niveau du gouvernement togolais, les actions pour pouvoir développer les compétences de la jeunesse, puisque quand on dit transition démographique, on dit forte population jeune, ceci donc se démontre également par une forte demande des biens sociaux en matière d'éducation, en matière de santé et en matière d'emploi. Donc, qu'est-ce que les gouvernements doivent faire pour pouvoir satisfaire donc, à ce besoin croissant des populations? Donc, le Togo, le choix a été clair. Dans un premier temps, je pense que le choix est articulé à 3 niveaux. Primo, nous avions mis des programmes pour développer les compétences et mettre la jeunesse donc, voilà, et pouvoir soutenir l'emploi des jeunes. Ce fut donc la première action. Et ensuite, la deuxième action, c'était beaucoup plus ce qui est l'appui ou le soutien à tout ce qui est innovation, entrepreneuriat et développement donc, de l'écosystème des startups. Ce fut le second angle d'intervention. Et le dernier angle d'intervention était un peu le développement donc, des jeunes talents et des jeunes leaders dans le pays. Pour ce qui concerne le développement donc, des compétences professionnelles pour soutenir l'emploi, le pays a mis en place plusieurs politiques et d'abord des réformes pour réviser donc, le programme d'orientation scolaire, pour réviser les curricula de sorte à aligner donc, les formations aux besoins réels donc, du marché de l'emploi. Ensuite, le Togo a lancé récemment des programmes que nous appelons donc des instituts de formation en alternance pour le développement. Ce sont des instituts modernes et équipés qui ont été construits un peu partout dans toutes les régions donc, du pays pour pouvoir former donc, des jeunes compétents qui sont aptes à intégrer immédiatement le marché du travail. Et ces instituts de formation, je pense, sont construits ou développés dans des secteurs clés comme l'agro-industrie, l'aquaculture, l'énergie renouvelable, la sylviculture. Donc ce sont des secteurs pour lesquels le pays présente des avantages comparatifs révélés. Ce sont dans ces secteurs-là que nous avons essayé donc de construire ces infrastructures donc de développement. Donc là, actuellement, avec les IFAD, un peu partout dans le pays, nous avons plus de 400 jeunes qui sont formés et qui sont intégrés. Donc c'est un exemple que j'ai voulu quand même partager qui est très bien aligné avec les besoins donc en termes de quoi? En termes d'énergie, en termes de transformation agro-industrielle et également en termes de création d'emplois. Le second point lié à l'entrepreneuriat, il faut noter que le Togo a mis également plusieurs initiatives, que ce soit en termes de financing, de financement, en termes de partage de risques, en termes donc de garantie pour pouvoir financer les initiatives qui sont portées par les jeunes Togolais. On a par exemple un fonds donc pour financer les jeunes et les femmes. Nous avons également développé au Togo les initiatives pour pouvoir éclore les jeunes entrepreneurs. Donc, je ne vais pas aller trop dans le détail parce que le temps il est assez short pour nous. Et une initiative également assez importante que nous avons lancée au Togo, qui est beaucoup plus soutenue par le président de la République, c'était un peu tout ce qui est l'accès au marché. Où donc au niveau du Togo, tout ce qui est marché public, 25% des marchés publics sont attribués aux jeunes. Ouais, donc tout ce qui est procurement au niveau des marchés publics, il y a une loi qui attribue 25% des marchés publics aux jeunes et femmes entrepreneurs. Donc pour finir, messieurs les ministres, le dernier point était beaucoup plus le développement des talents. Et sous l'initiative donc du chef de l'État, au Togo, une importance particulière est accordée donc au développement des jeunes talents. Et le président a mis en place une initiative où on détectait directement les jeunes talents aux sorties donc, de leur formation universitaire et qui sont intégrés donc, dans des hautes universités pour pouvoir renforcer leurs capacités et les intégrer aussi bien dans l'administration publique et dans l'administration privée. Je suis par exemple l'un des fruits de ce programme. Je me rappelle en 2016, quand j'ai fini au fait mon doctorat, et j'ai remarqué qu'il y avait donc ce programme lancé par le président de la République qui m'avait détecté et qui m'a offert donc cette formation. Ok, j'ai 1 minute, d'accord. Qui m'a offert donc cette formation, je me rappelle, à Londres, juste pour renforcer les capacités donc, des jeunes. Et après ça, donc, toujours avec l'appui donc, des autorités publiques, nous avons été intégrés donc, dans des institutions internationales, plus de 3 ou 4 institutions internationales, juste pour nous permettre de faire quoi? De renforcer nos capacités et de pouvoir servir à the end notre pays. Donc, juste là, je suis un exemple, mais il y a plus de 300 et 400 jeunes qui bénéficient donc de ce programme. Et dans le cadre même de ce programme, je pense qu'il y a 3 ans, j'étais à l'OCDE, où je pense que nous avons ici la directrice de l'OCDE, nous avons la directrice de division également de l'OCDE qui est ici, pour non seulement apprendre de ce qu'ils font, mais également donc développer donc les bonnes politiques pour la transformation structurelle de notre économie. Je tiens donc à remercier l'OCDE ici présent pour leur appui dans l'élaboration donc de la politique de transformation économique donc du Togo, qui sera bien sûr lancée donc dans les mois à venir. Donc je tiens à vous dire merci et à vous dire que oui, développement donc de l'Afrique, transformation structurelle des pays les moins avancés, mais nous ne pouvons pas le faire sans impliquer la jeunesse. La jeunesse, elle est incontournable et doit être prise en compte dans la définition et la mise en œuvre des politiques publiques. Merci.
Thank you very much, Minister for FANA, for those practical examples of what Togo is doing to harvest the demographic dividends. I would now like to turn to our last distinguished speaker, Assistant Minister J. Wellington Bashu of Liberia. Liberia recently launched the Arrest agenda. The Arrest is, I think this is an acronym. You launched the Arrest agenda for inclusive development, AAID, its national development plan for the period 2025 to 2029. Question: how does this plan vision diversifying the economy and promoting private sector-led growth, and what role does digitization play? Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, moderator. Your Excellencies, as you just heard, Liberia launched its 5-year National Development Plan on January 15, 2025. And the overarching goal of this plan is to support the transition of Liberia from a lower income country to a lower middle income country. And to do that, the Arrest agenda, and Arrest is an acronym that stands for agriculture, rules, rule of law, education, sanitation and health, and tourism. That is Arrest. So the Arrest agenda seeks to address the interconnected challenges that the country faces, such as low literacy rate, high unemployment, and environmental degradation. To do this, the National Development Plan encourages a shift in the mindset of Liberians to be more productive and nationalistic. The National Development Plan seeks to diversify the existing economic resources, reduce reliance on unprocessed commodities through investing in sectors such as agribusiness value chain, tourism, and RCT to address and also to address the issue of governance and the rule of law. Now, what does the role of digitization play in ensuring that Liberia achieve these? Let's look at 3 key areas. One, the ARD seeks to harness the opportunities provided by digitization to enhance governance, improve transparency, and efficiency in public service delivery. 2, the IRS agenda seeks to harness the opportunity provided by digitization to support e-commerce and digital entrepreneurship and accelerating financial inclusion through digital payments. And 3, the IRS agenda seeks to use digitization to improve access to education and health so as to make the citizens very productive. Now, coming to the IRS sector, the National Development Plan seeks to use technology to facilitate growth of the agro-business sector, to establish and encourage digital marketplace for farmers, encourage farmers to use e-commerce to identify potential business partner out of the country. Now, the second sector here is road and infrastructure development. The IRS agenda seeks to promote smart transportation system, GIS mapping for infrastructure planning. The third sector here is rule of law. The IRS agenda seeks to employ the opportunity provided by digitization to digitize case management, e-governance for justice service delivery. The next sector is education. Also, to harness the opportunity provided by education, and we saw that during the COVID, online learning became the order of the day. So the government decided to use digitization to ensure that those who are far apart or are unable to move from one point to another to get to the classroom to take lessons physically can use online means to acquire whatsoever knowledge they intend to do. So I will just now go strictly to the 6 pillars of the IRS agenda and just pinpoint few of the key things relating to digitalization. For example, the first pillar of the IRS agenda is economic transformation. And the program, one, is financial inclusion. Under this program, the plan seeks to ensure that the number of ATM per 100,000 adults increase from 4 to 8. Also, the government wants to use technology to increase the coverage of the population using mobile money. And as you are aware, Liberia is a developing country. We have some hard-to-reach area. And so, by encouraging and supporting the use of mobile money can facilitate transaction for people, especially the low income earners in hard-to-reach areas. Then we come to infrastructure development. The program here, we got National RCT Ecosystem and Digital Society. Here, the government seeks to use RCT to increase internet access to the population from 32.4% to about 72.4%. And this is how many? This is about 50%. Then, of course, the rule of law. As I earlier said, the program here is just a policy reform and decentralization. The government seeks to support the establishment of digital case management, e-governance for justice system efficiency. Then, of course, governance and anti-corruption. Corruption is one of the pandemic that is actually killing our nation. And so the government is intending to utilize the opportunity provided by digitalization to curb corruption. To conclude, in spite of these, the country still faces challenges as it relates to its digital transformation. One, limited internet penetration and digital infrastructure gap. Two, high cost of digital adoption and lack of investment. Three, digital literacy and skill gaps in the workplace. And four, cybersecurity risks and data privacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for that intervention. And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the interventions from our panel. I understand that the Secretariat will be preparing a summary of the session, so I will not provide a summary myself. However, I would like to make a few concluding observations. First of all, building resilience is not an optional but an imperative for the LDCs. If we do not do so, we will systematically lose hard-earned development gains. Second point is that the return on our investments through prevention approaches, for example, through adaptation of a disaster risk reduction, will provide a return which is multiple times higher in terms of avoided losses of lives and livelihoods. This is especially the case for investments in early warning systems, which have been estimated to have a 9-to-1 return on investment. And lastly, resilience building measures must be undertaken at all levels: climate and environmental, economic, as well as social, since vulnerability is multidimensional and therefore requires a holistic response. With that, once again, I want to thank our distinguished speakers who have given us critical insights and inspiration, and therefore, at this moment, I declare the session closed, and may we give one last round of applause in appreciation of our speakers.
I thank the Honorable Minister for his able moderation. I thank the distinguished panel of ministers for their interventions. And Excellencies, distinguished participants, we will proceed seamlessly into the next session. So please stay tuned, and we will be immediately moving to the next session on high-level initiatives. Yeah, I invite the next panel to kindly come to the podium. Thank you very much.
with the minister, I think, but we can start. They're with the minister, they're trying to exchange with the minister, but we can start. Yeah.
Zambia and all our partners, the UN country team, and of course OHR, LLS, for organizing this brilliant event.
Okay, then let's
So my job will be to mainly, I think it will be try to stick to the schedule, which of course is a bit of a challenge given the fascinating program and the brilliant speakers that we have. And of course we're also a little bit behind the schedule, but we will try to catch up. Therefore, also this session will be shortened a bit, and apologies, we also have to skip the coffee break at this time. We aim to have lunch at 1:20. There will be further information on that. But so I trust that the next moderator, Raga Elin Adnedottir, Director of OECD Development Center, will manage this time very excellently. So the next session will be a high-level dialogue on innovative financing mechanisms and partnerships to promote resilient economies in LDCs. So over to you, Raga.
Thank you very much. Okay, panelists, challenge accepted. We are the time, we're the buffer zone here, so we will do our very best. And I can just start by thanking the government of Zambia and our partners at UN, OHR, LLS, and Finland for having us here and having the opportunity to have this great discussion, which we are following the wonderful and powerful discussion in the opening ceremony, which was so powerful that it started a volcanic eruption in Iceland, where I'm from, the 11th one. The 11th one in 4 years, so there was something said here that sparked the flame. But in order to get us going, let me just zoom very quickly in on the topic of discussion that we're having here, and it will tackle the crucial question: how can the international community mobilize more finance, including private finance, for LDCs, given the unique circumstances? And I don't have to go into those. The numbers speak for themselves, and we've had the facts and the figures and the geopolitical environment listed out in the previous discussion. ODA declining, all sorts of new challenges, and the underarching and the overarching both urgency is compounded by the climate shocks that we have also heard here today, that are affecting the LDCs much more than it is affecting other parts, other countries of the world. And with a fourth financing for development summit or conference coming up this June and July, this is an even more opportune moment to reflect on these issues and share solutions that may be are interesting to share. Before I turn to the esteemed panel, I just want to share with you very quickly the three key priorities we at the OECD Development Center see as crucial for this discussion. First, and that was highly reflected here in the opening session, the LDCs must be the driver's seat in designing and implementing their national financing strategies with coordinated participation from its partners. And this means going beyond the fragmented ad hoc interventions to strategic long-term approaches. Minister Abdul mentioned the work that we're doing on the production transformation policy review with Togo that we're launching next week. That's one of the tools that we have been enforcing this approach and will continue. Secondly, as the Minister from Malawi from Renewable Energies Minister strongly expressed, it is important to hold the international community accountable for delivering support and partnerships adapted to the increasingly challenging circumstances of the LDCs. And to support this, we need to know we need to measure what we are doing and seeing the results of our work. And in that respect, the OECD Development Center has been working on the LDC 5 monitor with our partners from UNU Wider and FERDI to develop a tool that can measure and track progress and ensure the necessary follow-through. And finally, in following that, we need better tools to support the LDCs in navigating these complex landscapes of innovating finances, especially when it comes to instruments addressing the emerging priorities, including the climate resilience. So that's from my side to set the scene and to introduce our work. But now turning to this esteemed panel, we are waiting for Ms. Prudence Kaoma, the Permanent Secretary from Ministry of Finance and National Planning of Zambia. She is in another meeting, but will hopefully join us shortly. But here on my right, I have Ms. Satu Santala. Did I say Santala? Was it correct? Managing Director of the Nordic Development Fund. On her right is Mr. Panu Partanen. He's the Vice President of Vaisala from Finland. And to my right is not Mike, but Daniel Isoba, the Principal Infrastructure Engineer, Transport, East and West Region of the African Development Bank. And because we're the buffer, we have exactly 25 minutes. We can do it, because 5-minute interventions from all of you, and then we might have a couple time for a couple of questions. So I will start with you, Satu. The international financial institutions are at the forefront of sustainable finance innovation, and you have the capacity to adapt financing mechanisms to monitor how they work in practice and to complement these with your technical capacity as well. And all of these elements are extremely important to in a fast-changing area, such as what we've been discussing here, the climate resilience. So if you could please tell us, what is the Nordic Development Fund, or how is it helping to unlock innovative finance to drive climate resilience and private sector investments in the LDCs? And you may go to the podium or stay here. She is going to the podium. The floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Raga, for that wonderful opening and introduction. I should say all protocols observed to save a bit of time. It's been a very inspiring morning, and of course I'm very humble to come after such distinguished speakers this morning. Yes, a few thoughts I wanted to share with you on how to support resilience through partnerships and innovative finance, and our experiences in the Nordic Development Fund. But just because I think many of you may not know the Nordic Development Fund very well, I'll start with just a few facts about us. We are a climate and development fund owned by the 5 Nordic countries. We finance climate and development projects in low-income and lower middle-income countries, with an emphasis on Africa, and with some work also done in Asia and a little bit still in Latin America. We complement the Nordic countries' toolbox in their climate and development finance, so we add on to what they can do through other channels. We're also fully concessional, but we can use, in addition to grants, we can also use concessional equity and concessional loans, which means that we have quite a bit of flexibility in what we can do and how we can do it. We are small, which means we have to be clever. Our total assets are somewhere to the tune of 800 million, and annually we can make new commitments between 70 and 80 million. So you understand it's not a huge pot of money, so we really need to think cleverly how we use it so that we get the best benefit out of it. And that's really the strength we have. We really bring that kind of trying to help solve the next difficult challenge and use innovations. So that's us. Partnerships was in the title of our conversation today, and I really wanted to emphasize that. For us at the NDF, partnerships is really in our DNA. We don't do anything on our own. We co-finance with the bigger MDBs and with the private sector, and we really look for those coalitions where we can work together. And I think in the current environment, working together in new kinds of partnerships, old kinds of partnerships, any kind of partnerships is really critical. And I think that's really what I would like to emphasize today. And bringing in both public and private, but also philanthropies and so on, I think is really very critical right now. At NDF, we like to say that we have something called creative capital, which means that we try to engage early stage in any project or any idea and co-create, bring in that innovation and try to be catalytic. And there are other financiers who are big and who kind of can do more of the bulk of things, but we kind of want to be creative. And we work in two different ways. We work with the public sector, mainly in collaboration with the bigger MDBs. And that's where we bring in grant financing to some of those programs in order to drive climate focus, to drive innovation and new kinds of approaches that may be where we can add value there. For example, right now we are working together with the government of Zambia and the World Bank, as well as the GEF, in co-creating a program here in Zambia on natural resources management, land, forest agriculture, and that innovative element there. We've also, for example, co-financed something called the SOF initiative, which is on meteorological survey in a lot of different countries, and where we engaged early and helped make it possible, and so on. So different kinds of programs there. Then the other part of our work, which is currently about a half of the work we do, is in blended finance, so directed to the private sector and working with private sector entities to make the scarce development funds go further. And I wanted to share a couple of thoughts on that, because that's, I think, where a lot of the thinking that many of us are engaged in is going. So first of all, of course, blended finance means bringing development, concessional development resources together with private resources that are market rate. And then using different kinds of structures to do that. They may be investment funds, debt funds, they can be bond issuances with some guarantee, they can be technical assistance to capacity or design, and so on. And we, as a concessional financier, we typically we finance through funds, so private equity or debt funds, and we come in at the lowest capital stock level and to take more of the risk. Yes, I'm aware of the time. Just wanted to say that while there's a lot of innovation, a lot of excitement around blended finance, and it is a really, really useful tool, it's not a magic bullet. And in particular, in the low-income countries, it is hard. We do know that a bigger part of blended finance actually goes to other countries than low-income countries because the market conditions are more difficult, the risk, both perceived and real risk, are higher, and so on. So I think, and of course, getting the actual private sector investors interested in these markets is very hard. I have three things to suggest for your countries to focus on in order to increase the share of blended finance. First of all, working on improving the enabling environment for key sectors and for the financial sector. Then work with local capital mobilization, for example, local pension funds and so on. How could we attract them to invest more in your countries? And then thirdly, domestic financial institutions, public development banks and other banks to work with you on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry to have been giving you the evil eye, but that's a task that I was, or role that I was tasked with. So moving down here on the right to Panu, we've heard about how the LDCs and donors are looking to unlock financing for climate resource, but we can't get anywhere unless we understand what this financing can do when applied to game-changing technologies. The president of Zambia mentioned in his opening remarks, he talked about the weather forecasting. The new recent example of a different kind of shock that I mentioned, the volcanic eruption in Iceland, we had warning systems, warning signals, so everyone could be evacuated and infrastructure hopefully secured. But how can we harness meteorological and climate technologies to drive resilience, disaster preparedness, and sustainable growth? And this small question, you have 5 minutes to answer. Is anyone going to project the slides? Yes, they are there.
Okay, now the technology is all set. So ladies and gentlemen, it is really honor to address this distinguished delegations. As we heard on this morning, today the impacts of climate change are extremely impacting our daily lives. There's extreme weather events and then increasing events causing substantial damage to our communities, economies, and ecosystems. Thank you. And then the urgency has never been bigger for that. Climate change is not a distant threat, it is a kind of a present reality for our current world. From devastating floods to prolonged, how does this, do I get to the next slide somehow? To prolonged droughts that was mentioned on this. Okay, here we have. So you can see that on the slide. You can see the number of the extreme weather events and the devastation in the world, how they destroy infrastructure, disrupt lives, and hinder economic growth. And in emerging economies, the consequences are particularly severe, as the limited resources and infrastructure amplify the impacts. Investments in the meteorological infrastructure are crucial to mitigate the impact to these extreme weather events. Accurate weather forecasting and climate monitoring enable us to anticipate and prepare for disasters, reducing the devastating effects. However, challenges lies in securing the necessary funding for these investments, especially in emerging economies where the financial constraints are significant. The kind of the envelope is there that is limiting the possibilities. Development funding like NDF and others plays a pivotal role in providing the investment capacity needed to build the robust meteorological systems. There are several sources to this funding, including, for example, the World Bank, Green Climate Fund, several development financing, but also some bilateral financing. For example, Finland has been utilizing some bilateral financing in order to support the build of the meteorological systems, and Vaisala has been also participating in those. And also the soft financing, which is governed by the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, was mentioned by Satu Santala's speech right now. Can I have the next slide, please? Investing in the weather observation systems and forecasting capabilities, it's not actually a cost, it is an investment. Can I have the next one? This is not quite working. Oh, now it works. Okay, here's the right, and then now it jumps over to the. But investment. Based on the WMO's World Meteorological Organization's evaluations, $1 spent in the meteorological infrastructure provides tenfold payback in the socio-economic benefits to a country. These benefits vary from country to country. They can come from the reduced loss of damages, or, for example, more functional infrastructure for transportation. Vaisala has been the leader of this meteorological infrastructure systems, and we have been implementing several weather systems around the world, also here in Zambia and many other LDC countries. We have been using a holistic approach where we are not looking only at the kind of one single point of the system, but looking at the whole value chain, because unless we can get the meteorological and forecasting information to the people and public, then there's no value. There needs to be the full holistic chain in order to support the societies. Of course, the success of these systems depends strongly on the cooperation with local authorities. Unless you work with the local authorities and understand the local needs and dependencies, you can't build a working holistic system. Maybe to conclude, for the sake of time, to harnessing meteorological and climate technologies is not about the technological advancement. It's about building resilience, preparing for disasters, and fostering sustainable growth. And investments in the meteorological systems are investments. They are not a cost. They are providing socio-economic value for the countries for the long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this insightful intervention and for sticking to 5 minutes. Very impressive. So, Daniel, you're under pressure now. Last but not least, to ensure that we are the time buffer, and you've been working with us at the center on issues related to infrastructure development in Africa for a very long time, and we've often talked about how African countries have twin objects: to bridge the gap in infrastructure and at the same time ensure that it's done in a way that it is resilient to climate shocks and climate disasters. And that's why I would like to ask you, what is the Africa Development Bank's role in climate smart infrastructure and sustainable urbanization?
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you very much, distinguished guests. So I'll speak to the role of African Development Bank in climate smart infrastructure and sustainable urbanization. As you may know, African Development Bank is an African institution. The role of African Development Bank is financing and providing financing and technical support to the regional member countries. So the regional member countries are 54, and then we have the non-regional member countries, which are 24. We all know that Africa faces a significant infrastructure deficit, estimated up to 170 billion. And each year, it leaves a shortfall of about 108 billion. This results in a shortfall in production annually and tangible economic benefits. Likewise, urbanization is at rapid rise in Africa, 45% in 2023, which is an increase of about 30% from 35% in 2000, and is projected by 2050, 60% of Africa's rapidly growing population will be in cities. So the bank is really committed to ensuring that we play a crucial role in addressing this gap in financing of projects. So what do we exactly do? We provide climate smart infrastructure development, an example in renewable energy. You may have heard of Desert to Power Initiative in the Sahel, where the African Development Bank is committed to investing in 10 gigawatts of power, which will benefit over 250 million people. Climate resilient transport, that's in low carbon transport, including electric buses, and also of late, we are really emphasizing rail. Green water management and smart irrigation, wastewater recycling. We also targeting sustainable urbanization initiatives like smart cities and green infrastructure, as well as climate financing and support. So what instruments do we use? We use a range of instruments. With government, we provide project loans, direct funding for infrastructure and urban projects. We also provide policy-based loans, budget support linked to policy reforms. We provide lines of credit, financial support to national banks, to on-lend to local banks. We provide guarantees to risk mitigation for investors and lenders. This can leverage probably up to 4 times. We've done this in countries like Benin, Rwanda, and Cote d'Ivoire. We provide equity investments where we directly invest in government-backed projects. We also provide grants to countries which are really low income, but as we know, grants, this money is reducing. So that's limited. But one challenge we face is that there is level of preparedness of our regional member countries. So provide trust funds for preparation, like Sustainable Energy for Africa, urban and municipal development funds. We have the infrastructure project, IPPF, Africa Water Facility, and then with government of Japan, Fund for Africa Private Sector Assistance. We also provide legal assistance in terms of Africa Legal Support Facility. Now, from the private sector window, we provide senior and subordinated loans to directly fund businesses, equity participation. We also support trade finance and as well as risk management, private sector guarantees. We work on capital markets, bonds issuance, and as well as sovereign and corporate bonds. Another innovative instrument is asset recycling, where we governments monetize existing infrastructure assets like roads or bridges through sale or lease, and then reinvest the proceeds into new infrastructure projects, effectively recycling this capital. So how do we access these funds? We assess eligibility criteria, which is financial soundness, alignment with government objectives, and then development impact, as well as sustainability and compliance with environmental and social standards. So generally, where would encourage, especially private sector, we are always open. You approach any of our regional member country offices, and we have a discussion. So in conclusion, the bank, African Development Bank, has a number of diverse financing instruments playing a crucial role in Africa's development by supporting infrastructure, private sector growth, climate resilience initiatives, by leveraging a number of innovative financing models. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel. And believe it or not, we have 3 minutes, which is not maybe enough for a lot of questions. But instead of that, I would encourage you to speak to the panelists in the coming lunch. And we use these 3 minutes to give you, after hearing what others have said, if there's any 30-second comments from you in conclusion. And we'll just do it from the seat.
Okay, I can go. Okay, so just to conclude, because there are several needs in the LDC countries for investments, and obviously kind of the development financing and development funds are still needed. Well, I was presenting one of the very significant ones, which is investing in the meteorological infrastructure in order to develop a sustainable countries and to be sustained against the climate change. So that was my pitch.
Thanks. And just having listened to both my co-speakers on the panel, I do agree that there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of investments in the public sector, be it in weather forecasting or be it, as you described, Daniel, the many sectors, including urban planning and so on. And we're actually involved in all of those sectors also together with the African Development Bank. But just, I think maybe what I wanted to say was that in these days we really need to think creatively and innovatively, build those kinds of partnerships where we bring both the private sector, philanthropies, public sectors together and really try to invent new kinds of ways of working. But it's very hard, in particular when you try to bring the private sector investors in. The enabling environment, regulation, all of that is really important. It's not because the private investors, even pension funds and so on, they have their own mandates that they work based on, and it's not, for them, it doesn't make a difference whether it's an LDC country or whatever it is. It's really the investment that makes sense. So we have to think of that. Thanks.
Thank you. And Daniel, final words?
Well, thank you very much. Just to re-emphasize, as panelists have already emphasized, that the infrastructure needs are huge. We must leverage the available resources and bring in private sector as much as possible. And African Development Bank, so far we've been very strong on from the public sector, but we really encourage the private sector to come in. And we are working on a lot of connecting Africa, especially integrating Africa, using a corridor approach where we can, for example, use the rail line or as a backbone, but bring in other energy, agriculture, etc. investment work together. An example is Lobito Corridor, which we are planning to work together with the governments of Zambia, Angola, and DRC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And believe it or not, it's 1:15, so we're the buffers. Thank you very much to the fantastic panel. And I would say, just in conclusion, that what I have learned is the key takeaways. You mentioned partnerships, collaboration, and forums such as this one, where we get to exchange views and learn from each other. Thank you very much.
We, of course, encourage everyone to engage, interact with you during the breaks. So the lunch will be served in the restaurant area, kind of outside, immediately after this session. So you are welcome to walk over there, and please be back here by 2:15 when the first thematic session will start. Thank you so much.